Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Love Your Dogs podcast. My name is Bree Drake. I am a holistic dog health educator and a certified holistic pet health coach. This podcast is heart led, real life, experience based. And today, not a lot of dry science. Today, I'm catching up with the holistic vet who walked me through the cancer journey with my sweet dog, Anne. And although I went a little rogue on her and unexpectedly, our 8.5-year-old boy got diagnosed with hemangiosarcoma, and she helped me where she could with that. But like I said, I went a little rogue and kind of made some decisions out of fear. So she didn't have much time to really help me with his situation, but she is a wealth of knowledge, an incredible, truly holistic veterinarian. I'm talking no red flags, does all the things 100% holistically. She's been practicing for over 40 years and she started out conventionally and now is 100% holistic. She does virtual consults, no physical appointments right now, but she's in Tennessee, offers virtual consults. She is her company is called Animal Healing Arts, and I will link all these details in the show notes as well as going over them at the end of this lovely interview. I can't wait to share her wisdom with you guys and catch up with her. I have not spoken with her since my guides died. So, this will hopefully won't get emotional. I'm going to try my best. I think we'll talk at a later date about cancer specifically, and that one may be a little harder for me to get through without crying. But here she is. Here's our chat. Hey,
Hi there.
how are you? So good to
Good,
see you.
good. Nice to see you. Congratulations on launching your podcast. That's awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, I don't know how much you've kept up with what I've been doing or have any idea, but you played a huge role in it. And
Oh,
last time I talked to you was when I was in, some of the darkest days of my life with my 2 cancer guys. I don't know how much you remember, but
it's always hard.
yeah.
It's so hard, but sometimes, it inspires you to do great things in the world that help other people, and I mean that's the way I look at it. We all go through hard
Yeah.
times in life and
Yeah.
sometimes, that's there's that purpose in it and that's there. I think our pets are here to inspire and teach us. And sometimes
Yeah.
that's really hard. There's just some really tough stuff we have to go through to understand that. I've been through it myself with
Yeah.
my own pets. So I'm
Oh,
certainly not immune. Even doing the work I do when it comes to my own pets, I'm just as much of a basket case when they're sick or anything else or losing
I
them,
know.
you
I
know.
know. We
So
care so much, but you're so right. As devastating as it all was and traumatic and horrible, especially my hemangiosarcoma boy, I mean, that was a whirlwind. I have so many regrets around that, all my decisions with that still to this day. Um, but yeah, losing him so fast and so unexpectedly while my older girl was going through oral cancer, I'm like, "Gosh, this is terrible. These dogs are my life."
yeah.
And I just can't believe this happened, but now it's I found my purpose. I'm so fulfilled. I'm helping so many people, and I'm always sending people your way
Yeah, I
anytime
see that.
someone
So appreciate
oh
that.
my god. There's not a whole lot of great holistic vets out there that are truly holistic, and I know firsthand from working with you that you align completely with my values now, and I learned so much from you. So I'm like, please reach out to Dr. Judy Jasek. You will
Yeah.
love her. She's great, and I know you've built in a filtration system to make sure you're working with the right people,
Yeah.
and I
Yeah,
fully
right. Because I want to work with people that are really in alignment with this. That's, because working authentically is important to me.
yeah,
I just can't
yeah,
I've been doing this too long to kind of walk that line. And it's really what's in the best interest of the pets, because when I first started practicing more holistically, it was more like, well, I'll meet people where they're at. If they want to feed some kibble, okay, um, because I wanted them to feel good and feel like they weren't doing the weren't doing something wrong and all that. But now it's like, no, I advocate for the pets. Period. The end. These are my recommendations. This is what I'm going to make the recommendations that I feel are the best. And I've been practicing for almost 40 years. It's from my experience, what I have seen be the best. And
yeah, why waste time?
those are the people I don't want to watch people poison their pets, you know?
No.
That's why I
Yeah,
don't work
and
with people that want to do chemo. If you want to do that and work with an oncologist, great, that's your choice. But I think it's poison. And I want to work with people that feel the same and are looking for other alternatives. I mean, I used to, because you can certainly do complementary care and help pets that are also going through chemo, but that's just not, I'm very much a purist. And, like you said, I see a lot of vets that call themselves quote unquote holistic, but it's a different mindset. They have a more conventional mindset and they do a little acupuncture or something on the side, but
yeah,
their mindset's um, very conventional. So yeah, but
yeah,
thank you
yeah,
for the kind words. And I really,
of
commend
course.
you for picking yourself up and
Yeah.
getting out in the world and
Oh,
doing
it's so
something to help
tough,
more
yeah.
pets because people need to hear this stuff. I can touch just, I mean, very, very few people, but and sometimes people need to hear it from other people's personal experiences,
Yeah,
because I think the change in the profession and getting this information out there, we're not going to change. They're not going to change the profession. We have to start with the pet guardians that start to see things differently and start demanding a different way. That's what's going to change the profession, I think.
yeah, I
Um,
completely agree. And,
yeah.
I do coaching now one-on-one, um, and I try to focus on prevention mostly. I'm not a vet, I didn't go to medical school. I did Dr. Ruth Roberts' holistic pet health coaching program, which was decent. I came into it with a lot of strong values. I'm a purist like you, so she's more integrative, so there's a lot of things I didn't agree with. But I did that and I coach, and I'm not qualified to help people with major issues, but I am qualified to walk people through, part of your filtration process, which is telling people about vaccines, telling them about the preventatives, getting them on the right diet. So I focus mostly on that. And I've only been doing it for maybe a year and a half now. And I'm
So
already
how's
with
that
you
going? Are
where,
you finding people that want that education?
yeah, I do. And I enjoy it, but it takes so much time. And that's the problem with the conventional system is there's not enough time. It's all about efficiency and getting as many people through as fast as they can, making that quick buck. Vets don't have time to explain things. And I know why that can't work because it takes the right dog parent and the time. It takes so much time and effort and I love it and I don't really advertise it as much anymore that I do it. But if someone emails me and asks, I'll open up my calendar. But I would definitely have a full calendar if I did advertise it more. But I'd rather spend my time since it is such general preventative stuff, just sharing it with a wider audience all at once.
Yeah,
And that's
totally.
why I have this
Totally.
podcast and I want to bring vets like you who I admire so much because you're not on social media much. It's awful. It is so awful. The pushback, the hate,
I
especially from
know.
the veterinary community, it is really hard to deal with when you're just trying to get a good message out. So I created this podcast because I want your voice to be heard by this audience that I've somehow grown thanks to my
Awesome.
sweet dogs that I lost to cancer. But yeah, I've been on the fast track to I used to be like, I'll meet people where they are. And I think that's important to some degree, but you're right. There's no time to waste. Our dogs' lives are so much shorter. Everything happens so much faster. And you got to get people to change. Like you got to say, this is so important. You need to change. There really isn't a middle
There
ground.
isn't a middle
And that's
ground.
what frustrates me with a lot of the voices that are already out there on social, a lot of the bigger vets. We won't have to name names, you probably know I guess they wanna appeal to the masses more and make more money, so
Hmm.
they kinda walk this
Yeah,
line where
totally.
they're like, "Oh, just get the puppy vaccines and 1 rabies shot and detox and titer later," and they sell this idea that that's safe, and yeah, maybe some dogs can handle that, but most of our purebred dogs really shouldn't be getting any vaccines if you can get comfortable with that and be responsible about that, so
Right. And the
yeah,
the
it's
whole
tough.
bottom
It's
line is, and this has been an evolution for me too, but now
yeah,
I'm at the point where I mean, so how does it make sense that baby animals come into the world and they're perfect? God made them perfect by design, and we feel like we have to make them healthy. This is what the profession would tell people that we have to make them healthy by pumping them full of pharmaceuticals. How does that make any sense at all? It doesn't. And the crux of it, and this is what I keep thinking about, is like, what do we really need in veterinary medicine? And we need the education. And you're right, it doesn't need to be a vet. It's just the problem is people might hear something from you and like totally resonates with them. And then they run into their vet and their vet tells them the other side of the story. And then which way are they going to go? People need to decide. Some are like, no, I'm going to trust the veterinary profession. Others are like, no, that doesn't resonate with me. I'm going to go with what Bree says,
Yeah.
So it's hard, but I just truly believe COVID really opened my eyes to a lot and following human practitioners. Like, I don't know if you follow Dr. Tom Collin or Andy Kaufman on the whole terrain and viruses. It's never been proven that any virus exists. And that's been eye-opening for me just since COVID.
Yeah.
I've always preached that vaccines are toxic and you should minimize them and you don't need to keep doing boosters every year and all of that. But I never really got on the, viruses don't exist train until COVID and some of that information that's come out, like, wow, that's never been proven. Even rabies. I did a deep dive into rabies and it's like,
Yeah.
it's never been proven. Never
Oh, I
definitively proven.
deep
It's
dive
just,
on that a lot too. It's
yeah,
one of my favorite topics, but
yeah.
we're recording, by the way. So if you want me to take any of that out, let me know.
Okay. No, that's great. That's
No,
great.
yeah, I mean, I'm open about it. I had reached out to someone to talk about rabies that I know has studied it a lot, and she was like, "No, I won't talk about it." And I'm like, "Oh man, but it's such a fascinating topic." I
Yeah.
still err on the side of, it may exist. I want to protect my dog. I don't want him getting in altercations with wildlife, obviously, for multiple reasons, but I haven't been dissuaded fully one way or the other, and I
I
certainly will not let it force me to harm my dog,
Right. And
you
the
know?
vaccines, the other thing I think is really important for people to realize is that the vaccines are definitely getting more toxic. They're using this mRNA technology since COVID and that whole mRNA technology that came out, the COVID shots and all that. I mean, I'm seeing, reports of, I've never seen so many reports of people saying, yeah, I gave my dog the rabies shot and they died. You know, for a while, it's been like more chronic illness because their vaccines for a long time have been like disruptive to the immune system. So you get chronic illness like GI disease or itchy skin or things like that. But to say, yeah, my dog had the shot and they died. I have a Substack that I go out and write.
I didn't
And
know you had a Substack. I gotta
yeah,
go check
yeah,
that
Judy
out.
Judy
Great.
Jasek dvm.substack.com.
Good. I actually just joined Substack this morning.
Oh,
So,
cool.
that's
Well, but
awesome.
it's great,
Yeah.
great timing.
Yeah.
I really like it because I just go out there sometimes and write and vent, and it's just a
Goodness, I can't believe I didn't know this.
it's just a fun little thing. I used to have like more paid posts. I pretty much don't do. I didn't get enough of a paid audience, and then I
Yeah.
just decided I just wanted to get
Well
information out.
well, I'm sending a lot of people your way, so
Yeah.
maybe
So
you should maybe you should do
maybe
that
maybe
again
I
so you
could
can get both
revisit
of
it.
your time.
But anyway,
Yeah.
I wrote a post. So my last post was on the downturn of veterinary medicine and how I see what's happened and the influx of private equity companies, the corporate
Yeah.
takeover
Yeah.
and all of that, and how vets, I really truly believe that when somebody goes to vet school in their heart, they're in it to help the animals. But then they get sucked up into these systems and they get trapped. And it's hard for them to see a way out. And they get, brainwashed. I truly believe it's brainwashing and marketing, and then that's what everybody's doing. And the loss of compassion, it's just so sad. The stories that I hear, people going into their vets and just this lack of compassion is really hard to see. But anyway, I wrote an article just on kind of how I see what's going on. And I mean, I I think I usually I get a couple hundred reads or something on my Substacks. I had 6,000 on this one,
Good.
hundreds of
Good.
comments, and I'm
That's
like,
amazing.
wow, people, and even a few vets. I think that there was
Yeah.
only one or two vets that really pushed back. Say Substack's a little better. you don't get
weed out all
slammed
that
as
stuff.
bad,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. Oh, I get slammed all the time. The conventional vets just go after me, but I never engage with them, and they hate it. They
Oh, yeah.
hate it. Yeah.
It's not worth the
It's not
argument.
they're not even on our same level, you know? I try to have compassion for them too, and then I work with people one-on-one, I talk to people online, and they're getting bullied and shamed and disrespected, and I'm like, I can't stand up for these vets. I try to because I know they're stuck, but when they're treating people who are just trying to do better and are just trying to learn more, it's not okay.
It's totally
Mm,
not okay. I totally agree.
no.
Bullying
Yeah,
is not okay. If you have a different point of view, that's fine. But like, I am speaking from my experience, and nobody can tell me that my experience
yeah,
is wrong. It's what I've seen with my own eyes,
exactly. Yeah,
observed over 40 years of practice. So don't try to tell me that I'm wrong or it's not evidence based. I have 40 years of evidence, but
exactly. At
like
some point, these anecdotal things become evidence, right? At some point, they do.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
Uh-huh.
So I can't tell you how many times in my career I've been like, I'm observing something in practice. I just kind of have a gut feeling like, yeah, I don't think this is a good way to go with our pets, or I think we should be doing it this way, but it's just my own observation. And then 5, 10 years later, somebody will come out with a study or something saying, I've been observing. So it's
Yeah, like, why wait for a study to tell you? Use your brain. If it doesn't sit right in your gut, we're intuitive beings. You should trust that. And why
absolutely
wait for a study to say that it's harmful? When it seems harmful, maybe avoid it,
right.
you know? And
Exactly. And
there's something in people's brains that I can't understand it. There's people that it just clicks with and they get it. I mean, for me, I was raised to trust doctors. We were vaccinated. We did antibiotics, and I raised my dogs the same way. But as soon as one person showed me a different path, it was like a light bulb. But then there's other people who I deal with on a daily basis where it's like I don't think they have it in them to
right.
understand how this works. And
I don't
yeah, it
know.
gets
I was
really
talking to
frustrating.
a friend of mine. I got to know her actually as a client. She lives nearby
Yeah.
where I live. She raises poodles, and she does,
Mhm.
um, I mean, very strict, like natural rearing. I mean, she
Natural rearing,
sources
great.
all her own food locally, um,
Amazing.
for
That's
her
the dream.
dogs, feeds. Yeah, she does. She puts so much work into it, and she's a purist in what she does. And she battles with other people that call themselves, natural rearing breeders, and they're not. And she sees it, and
I know.
it really frustrates her. And I get it. And we had the same conversation. What makes us want to stay people like us, just really, really pure to the truth and living our truth? And once I know a truth, I mean, I didn't always practice this way. I started out conventional. It's been an evolution. But once I saw something that rang true with me, that was it. There was no going back. You can't unsee it. You can't undo it. And the vets, even though, yes, I do feel like they get trapped in the system, they got to be seeing that what they're doing is harming pets. If they're paying attention, they're like in the state of denial. Oh, yeah, those seizures, those weren't caused by the rabies shot just because they started a week afterwards.
Yeah, or
Couldn't
the
be the
Simparica
vaccines.
Trio or yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It can't be that stuff. So how can they not see it and just to be open to new information? It's like you said, to me, that's the key.
It
I
is.
I learned a lot from my clients over the years, especially when I was first getting started with holistic, because I was open. I attracted people in that wanted a different way. They were feeding raw. I didn't know very much about feeding raw, but my goodness, these dogs are coming in and they looked fantastic. So much healthier than my patients that were eating kibble. So, you know, teach me, how do you do that? What do you really? Yeah, I remember being amazed.
Why can't
Really?
more vets think that way? Why can't
You
they?
feed like just like a raw chicken breast. Really goes against everything I've ever been taught. But I'm
Huh?
looking at this dog that is in fantastic health.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
then, I started to see my patients get healthier. And then that's the bottom line. And I see dogs, turn around all the time, both, dogs and cats. But the other thing is, I think where the profession really goes wrong is it's one size fits all. It's like you have this diagnosis and this is the treatment for it. Or, every puppy gets, and The corporate clinics, from what I understand, are doing like 5, 6 rounds of puppy shots now. It's just ridiculous. And they all get the same. And I think, I know every pet needs to be looked at as an individual and work with cancer patients. Anytime I hear anybody say, this is what causes cancer, or you just do this and that's going to cure cancer, it's like, I just stopped listening. There's no absolutes anywhere. You know this
Even
from
as simple as like flea and tick prevention, where people are like, you just use apple cider vinegar. I'm like, no, it doesn't work that way. It's all different for every dog, every situation, every lifestyle, every region. I mean,
it's
it's
all
all
different.
different.
It's all different. So
Yeah.
have options and see what works. And, I don't know how much you get into talking about this, but the energetics of health, because so much of what we address, well, the majority of what is addressed in medicine, both conventional and I think to a large degree holistic, is only the physical body. But what about the emotions? What's the lifestyle of the pet? I think dogs that are allowed to get outside and run in the country, and not everybody can do that, granted, but if your dog only touches concrete and asphalt in the city, they're not going to be as healthy as a dog that gets out in nature and gets their nose in the ground. Where do dogs get beneficial bacteria for their gut? A lot of it's from the soil. They
Soil.
got their noses
Yeah.
down there. They're digging up
Mhm.
things, you know?
Uh-huh.
Um, and the
But
energetics of the
vets
human.
have people so terrified of the outside world.
Yeah,
Vets have people so terrified, and it's like, you're doing your dog a disservice. I have trainers reaching out to me who are just furious that they can't get people to take their puppies outside and socialize their puppies, expose their puppies because they're so scared. I'm like, that you're doing them a disservice because they need those little bits of exposure to train their immune system, you
absolutely.
know?
Absolutely.
It's wild.
I've had
Yeah.
people, actually had people tell me that their breeder told them, don't put your puppy on the ground till they're 4 months of age. I'm like, are you kidding me?
I know.
Like,
Oh my
really?
gosh.
Like,
Yeah,
no,
and
get them out, expose them, but have that healthy foundation. There's a big difference between a puppy that's eating kibble and a puppy that's eating a healthy raw diet. So give them that foundation and chances are they're going to be fine. And I think
yeah,
anything that people are taught that the people are taught things that makes them afraid of something, it's probably false. And it's just designed to sell. And that's how vaccines are sold. Think about the virus thing. If we eliminated the fear of viruses, the whole vaccine industry would collapse like that,
exactly.
you know? Um, and that's a big jump. I mean, that was a big jump for me, but I really believe it's not that pets don't get sick. It's not that puppies don't get horrific bloody diarrheas that we call parvo. I mean, I've treated many of those puppies,
But
but
why are they vulnerable in the first place, you
right,
know? Yeah,
right. It's
yeah.
genetics, it's poor diet, it's and toxicity. I mean, I actually bought parvo tests, the tests that they use in the clinic to test for parvo. Because that's another thing I've come to really distrust is testing for anything, whether it's
Well,
parvo
that's
or
interesting. Could someone like me buy it just to have or do you have
I,
to be a veterinarian?
I bought it from my medical supplier.
Yeah,
So
okay.
I don't know. But
Yeah,
if you wanted a box, I'd buy a box and send it to
yeah. I don't
you.
need one now. My pup's a year and a half today, actually, but
Oh,
I think
nice.
it would be cool for people to have so you know,
So
you
you could,
know?
but the thing is, like, I don't always trust the testing. It's just a little
Yeah.
color dot change. It's another thing that I think really came to light during COVID because people were creating positive COVID tests, a positive on a COVID test from like pineapple juice. And I heard a story about some teenagers, I think it was actually like over in England, they were just using Coca-Cola, putting it on there, getting a positive COVID test so they could get out of going to school. You know, so
Yeah, these tests aren't very reliable. That's something we don't think about a whole lot.
right.
Yeah.
So I
Uh-huh.
really questioned. So I bought these tests and I thought, so is there something else that could make these tests turn positive that puppies, there could be a common exposure that's making the puppies sick, but it's not the quote unquote virus. Because I know they get sick. I mean, I saw many, many of these puppies early on in my career. My first job was actually in rural Idaho. And we were near an Indian reservation, and there was they had a lot of just stray dogs running around, and we had parvo puppies and what we call parvo puppies in the clinic all the time. And so I don't know what else they could have been exposed to. I I've wondered and still wonder about glyphosate, because that was around the time that glyphosate came out, kind of in the later 80s. Uh, I've tried to test that on the parvo test, and still have not gotten a positive. But I think it's important just to question. We don't know, to not accept absolutes for anything, and question, and, you know, create that foundational health for your pet, and look at your pet. And I think the human emotions are so influential. What people are afraid of are more likely to affect their pets.
Yeah.
I'm in Tennessee now, here in the South, and I have clients that, yeah, I don't worry about flea and tick. I talked to a new client. Do you do flea and tick stuff? Nope, just don't worry about it. It's never a problem. But people that
Yeah.
are worried about it, they find a tick, and then they're worried about, Lyme or tick-borne diseases, or
They go right to
all,
the vet, they get the test, they test positive, they get the doxy, and
all right, right. And then
all
they just,
downhill from there.
right,
Yeah.
right. And then they have
Yeah.
symptoms because of the treatment.
Uh-huh.
But I think the
Mhm.
human fear is huge. I also find, just as kind of an aside, that the healthier pets are and the less inflamed they are, the less they attract the bugs. So pets
Yeah.
that are on a raw diet, like we talk about, not on an inflammatory kibble diet, not being over vaccinated and all that, they tend to just not attract the bugs as much. And should they be exposed to something? I mean, there's people out there that talk about how Lyme disease is just all a big fallacy too. Um, but if they're healthy and they have a healthy foundation, whatever's out there, their body's going to be better able to
Yeah.
handle it. I
Well,
mean,
let me
that's
tell you about
amazing.
my pup. So he's another golden. I
Uh-huh.
took a chance on another golden, but natural rearing breeder. We did no soats. He's not vaccinated. He's been raw fed since mom's milk. No flea and tick preventatives, nothing. But I'm in South Carolina,
Okay.
and it's hot, it's humid, and I'm a nature nerd too. Our property is covered in trees. I didn't want to cut any trees down. So lo and behold, last summer we started having fleas.
Mm,
And he's toxin free, he's raw fed, he's all the things, but he was also a puppy. So I think that plays into him being attractive to some fleas. We've managed it now. I've managed the yard really well, and I flea comb him now every time he comes inside, and I've been watching the numbers steadily go down. Maybe it's as he's getting older or as I've managed the yard better, because I was so hyper focused on trying every essential oil product, every topical, everything, and focused on him, where I'm like, it's the environment.
yeah.
I gotta tackle it. As soon as I did that, we had brought in a bunch of pine straw for landscaping, and it was
Mm.
dense and wet and moist. I think he picked up fleas somewhere, brought them here, and then I was focusing on him instead of the environment.
So what did you do to treat your yard?
So we spent a fortune on all bringing in a bunch of pine straw last year and spreading it. So my husband and I spent a few weekends gradually taking all the pine straw out. And I worked with the nursery to get all native ground cover plants that let sunlight through and air and dryness. And I think they're slowly dying. The fleas are tough. They have this life cycle, they have a pupa stage, so they can
I wonder if there
last a
was just
long
some
time.
larvae actually in the straw that
Exactly.
came
Yes.
in.
Something
The
happened.
straw probably brought them in. Yeah.
Yeah, something happened because up through last June, he didn't have a single flea as a puppy here.
Okay.
And it was plenty warm enough, and then we went on the road, he picked up some fleas in Wisconsin while we were traveling and didn't think much of it, combed them off, didn't really notice more. We were out in Montana, but we got home and he must have had some or some eggs, and I think these fleas were like, "We're in paradise. It is warm, it is
Yep.
humid."
Yep.
So it all blew up, and it's been a journey, and I've evolved and learned. And I was always saying that like raw fed dogs aren't as attractive. And I'm like, here's my toxin free dog, and
Yeah,
he's
but if
got
you brought
fleas.
them in
Oh,
unknowingly into your
yeah.
environment,
Yeah.
that's different. That's a factor, and that's the thing
Yeah.
about fleas, is they do live in the
And
environment.
they're opportunistic. Yeah. And it's very isolated. I think there's just zones of my yard where there's shade and moisture and some dense cover. leaves or straw, and they're where he pees at night, most likely. It stays warm, it stays moist. There's a guaranteed host that comes through. So anyway, since I started addressing the environment maybe 3, 4 months ago and flea combing him every single time he comes in, like being a predator in the system,
Mhm.
taking out those fleas, the numbers have been steadily dropping. It's been really cool. It's been another experience that has just made me kind of a master of the flea situation.
You can do it. So he's another
But
learning experience, right?
exactly, yeah, and I'm like, "Gosh, I believed all along if I did all these right things, he wouldn't be attractive." But the thing is, he's never reacted terribly. He's had his itchier moments, but he never had flea allergy dermatitis. Skin still looks beautiful. It was never what you would normally see where a dog is covered in fleas, red, open sores. It never he was better equipped to handle some of that pressure.
Nice.
And now that he's only got a few on him a day, it's like you wouldn't even know the difference. He's
You know what? I
perfect.
don't know much about this, but I have
Yeah,
a friend of mine that has used nematodes in
and I
their
use nematodes too. Yep,
used
yep.
nematodes too. Okay, because
I do, yeah.
that's supposed to help. But yeah, so you hit it from different angles. You address the
Yeah,
environment, and it's another
yeah.
one of those things. Like if you're really animate about I don't want to
Mhm.
give the toxins, you might have to spend some weekends mitigating it.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
it's really cool when you learn about how it works and you work with the environment. It's really neat.
yeah,
I've used some of the Wonder Side now and then, but I still am like, I don't know how great that is for the environment. I really think about that, like the beneficial insects and the pollinators. They claim that it doesn't affect them, but I'm very diligent with that. I'm like, I'd rather just manage it to make it a less hospitable environment for them. And
right.
the nematodes are awesome. And there's actually naturally occurring nematodes and insects that eat the flea larvae too. So
Uh-huh.
if you leave that leaf litter, it actually promotes those natural predators, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. Have
Yeah,
you
so I've learned
given
a lot about it.
do you do garlic supplements for your dog?
I do, yes. I've been giving just regular raw garlic fresh. I have the time to do that, but I do have the springtime bug off also.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
Because
but it's
I
been
think
an
it is
experience. Yeah,
multifactorial. You have to
it
approach
is.
it because
It is.
nothing holistic kills things
No.
efficiently, right? I mean,
Mm-mm.
there's nothing you can do that's gonna kill fleas that isn't gonna be toxic to your dog,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
That's the conventional medications, the Advantix and Brevectos and all of those. Yeah, they kill the insects, but they're very, very toxic to your dog.
Mhm.
So you're right, you have to mitigate the environment and do the flea comb and maybe, you're just gonna have an occasional flea and you
Uh-huh.
just decide that's
You
just
don't
part of
panic.
living in South Carolina?
Exactly. That's where I've come to. I'm like, I used to think I gotta eliminate all the fleas. I want to eliminate everything. And now I'm just like, he's a dog. He has such a beautiful life where I let him be outside as much as possible. He's gonna have ticks. He's gonna have fleas. And that's why I try and tell people, get a flea comb, because a flea comb, if you do it right when you come inside, is gonna grab the ticks too. The
Sure.
crawling ticks come off in the flea comb. I'm like, you just gotta get used to that. And I think most people live in areas where fleas and ticks really aren't an issue. When I stopped with my last 2 Goldens, I stopped conventional flea and tick meds cold turkey and never saw a flea or tick on them, not while they were on the meds, not after. So I think a lot of people give this stuff preventatively, even the
Yeah.
natural stuff, when they don't even need it.
Right, right. Because they're
It's
just
very isolated. I think my yard has fleas and my neighbor's doesn't because my neighbor has grass and, he maintains it where mine is just wild because I want it to be wild. I don't wanna mess with it.
right.
So it's just been a trade-off and a total learning experience. It's really cool.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Is have to, there's, pros and cons to letting your place be a little more natural, a little more wild. And
Exactly.
you're creating
Exactly.
habitat, right? And
Uh-huh.
things are
Mhm.
going to grow and you've got the birds and the butterflies and all that stuff, but you're going to have the fleas
Yeah.
and the ticks too.
Yeah.
So
Exactly. So do you deal with that where you are in Tennessee at all?
I haven't we moved the house we're in now, we moved here last August. The house we were in previously, also in Tennessee, it was more
Yeah.
wooded around the house, so we were seeing more ticks. Where we are now, it's the area around the house has been more cleared. So really haven't seen many ticks this year, but it's also been a very dry year. I don't know if it's been dry
Yes.
where you are, but we're just
Oh, it's been
like
so dry. I'm exhausted watering everything.
I know, me too. Like I
Uh,
built a bunch of raised beds over the winter and got them going, and like I'm out there every single day watering. Like Where's our Tennessee rain?
I know,
So
but it's
that
nice.
might
It gives you a chance to ground and force you to slow down, but it's also, like, some nights I'm like, "I'm so busy, and I gotta go spend an hour watering everything."
I know, I finally
Yeah.
set up the sprinklers so I can just and put them on a timer so I can just turn them on
There
and
you
let them
go.
run, 'cause, yeah, the
Yeah.
hand watering is nice, it can be relaxing, but it takes time,
Mhm.
and occasionally it's fine, but, I mean, we've gone
Yeah.
a couple of months without, like, substantial we had one little rain,
Us
and
too. Yeah.
yeah, it's supposed to come in this weekend, hopefully.
I supposedly, yes, I will be so happy 'cause it's dusty. I feel like I couldn't breathe the last couple days. Everything is so dusty.
Oh, I know, I was
Yeah.
out mowing
Yeah.
around the house and stuff, and it was
Gosh, a dust storm.
just a dust storm. Yeah, yeah. So
But yeah,
so
you're right. We have so much trees right up next to our house. It's basically a tree house, so that's why we see the ticks,
yeah, that makes a
and I tell
difference.
people that people panic when they see their first tick. And, like,
I
I
know.
probably pull at least 5 to 6 ticks off pine a week, some crawling, some attached, and it's okay because
Yeah,
he's supported. He's eats well, and I just did his heartworm test, along with the tick test, and nothing. He's
yeah,
good, and I've pulled dozens, if not more, ticks off him over his first year and a half of life. He's okay.
yeah, yeah.
Flea
Oh,
square ticks,
in our
black-legged ticks, all the ticks.
yeah, our last place, we were every evening, we'd sit and, like, check, we'd find them on ourselves, on the
Yeah,
pets,
yeah.
um, so, yeah, I
Like you
think
said, if you're worrying about it, chances are, you're stressing your body out, whatever, energetically to making yourself more susceptible to
right,
these bacteria and getting sick.
right,
Yeah.
exactly, exactly.
Mhm.
You gotta just learn to relax and enjoy life a little bit. It's so important.
I
So hard
know.
to do in
Mm.
our fast-paced world, but it's really important, and I
Yeah,
think our pets, really pick up on that
they
energy. I
do.
I really find that human energetics is so under-recognized in veterinary medicine, but I'll tell you, I begun to see trends now when I start working with, cancer patients, kind of the attitude of the humans really can affect outcome. Not always, but, um,
And you told
it
me that.
it
That
definitely
stuck with me forever.
it
You're like, "Your dogs don't know they're sick, and
yeah.
you have to go on with life like nothing's wrong." That is so important, and I tried my hardest, and I probably wasn't perfect.
No,
And I
we
think
never
Anne, my older girl's diagnosis first, the reason my boy, his hemangiosarcoma showed itself just 2 months later was because I was so worried and so stressed. I really think that had a lot to do with why they were diagnosed so close together. Yeah.
yeah. It could
Mhm.
be. I mean, and it's not like
Yeah.
it's very hard not to be. I mean, I'm the same way
No.
with my animals, I worry about them and it's hard not to be, but visualizing and realizing that their bodies are healthy. And I see miracles all the time too, where pets that I think are not gonna make it, or that we're not gonna be able to turn around or give them, some time with a good quality of life. I see that happen too. So and it's just I think also we're here for our lessons too. So sometimes, I can say that, but it's not like just because your pet dies of cancer, you're like a bad person, or it was because you were not positive enough. I think sometimes we just have our lessons to learn here, and our pets
Exactly.
come into our lives for reasons. There's just a lot more to the picture than just
Just the
focusing on the
physical.
physical body. That's important, but there's just so much more to it.
No, I completely agree with that, and this is a topic I like to bring up with everyone that I talk to is I get the comments all the time or the messages, "I did everything right, and my dog still got cancer," so sometimes there's just nothing you can do, and that's one of the big pieces I like to bring up. Well, what was the stress like in your dog's life? That's a huge part that's often overlooked, and there's also more physical blind spots too, but that is one where, a lot of things have been stacked against dogs over the decades, more intervention, more meds, more vaccines, more inbreeding. But I think most importantly, our dogs' lifestyles has changed so much where there's so many households with dogs now. Everybody is sold this convenient little package of what dog ownership looks like from the
Mhm.
conventional world. They're like, I can do that. I live in a high rise in New York City or, wherever. And I don't wanna make people feel guilty, but our dogs are living so disconnected from nature, not
Right,
moving enough, not getting enough sunlight, not getting that
right.
soil
I
exposure,
agree.
so that is a huge part of it. There's all of these things that have been stacked against our dogs, and I think that is the most important piece,
Yeah, yeah.
is I think they can overcome a lot of this. It doesn't mean we should force them to tolerate all of this nonsense that they can't they could overcome it if they were living a happy, healthy life of movement and some freedom and some space to be a dog, but so many don't get that.
Yes, they don't. They don't.
And
And if you live in the high rise, just make the effort to get your dog out, but somewhere
yeah,
chemical free. That's the other thing is a lot
I
of
know,
areas,
yeah.
grounds around apartment buildings and places like that, they're all sprayed with chemicals. So finding a natural area is really important. And I don't want to say that people in apartments shouldn't have dogs or it's wrong to have dogs if you live in an apartment, but you just have to be aware of these things and make an effort. Just understand that it's important
It
to get your
is.
dog out on nature, get their feet on the ground, get them in the sunshine. Um, yeah,
As much as you can, it has to be a priority.
yeah, even if they're little dogs, even if they're little that can go on the pee pad in your apartment or whatever, it's still important for them to get outside and ground and also getting away from the EMF. These big
That's
buildings,
not talked about enough, yeah.
so much the electromagnetic radiation and the cell phones and all of
The
that.
artificial light
Yep. Yep.
and then our sterile air, they're locked inside homes all day, people aren't opening their windows, and
Right.
they're stuck inside with all of our toxic mess, and they don't get a break. Our wildlife, they're affected to some degree by our modern world, but they get breaks, so they're
Yeah.
not constantly exposed to this stuff, and I don't know a whole lot about the EMF, but it's another one of those things where I'm not gonna wait for official studies to come out and tell us this is unsafe, and I know lots of people have done the research and have already proved it, but I'm gonna err on the side of caution, and I have our Wi-Fi on a timer that shuts off every night
Yeah.
from, I think it's 10 to, like, 5 in the morning, and
Hmm.
I'm actually having my husband install a light switch because I'm starting to unplug it when I leave the house. When Pine, my dog, is here, I leave the house, there's no reason for it, or anytime I'm not using it, it should be unplugged.
Yeah.
I should actually hardline. I haven't
Yeah.
gotten that crazy. I think my husband is draw the line, but, there's simple little things where we can reduce that exposure and give them some relief.
Yeah, totally. We have
People don't think
our
about
house
this
is all
stuff.
hardwired. We don't our Wi-Fi
Yeah,
is not on except for
good,
occasionally.
good.
Sometimes you want to download something or other, and
Yeah,
it's better with Wi-Fi. But
yeah,
my husband knows how to do all that stuff. So when we moved, that was one of the criteria. Actually, looking at a house, could we run the cables to hardwire in our
yeah.
computers? Like, so where would we put our offices, and can we
Mhm.
get to them easily enough to
Yeah,
hardwire them in. So, yeah, they're
that's so
all
great.
hardwired in. So, I'm actually looking at getting a dumb phone too.
Yeah,
That's just part of it is that they say that, the smartphones are tracking and a privacy issue, but also just that constant the bombardment of the
yeah.
the cell signal is also
Oh,
not
just
healthy.
constantly having access, yeah, and access to information, people having access to you constantly, it overwhelms me too, and it's just not good for
Yeah.
our
And we didn't,
regulation.
you know, I mean, I've been alive long enough that I didn't grow up with that technology. We had a phone
Neither.
that was attached to the wall with a dial on it. you know,
Yeah,
we didn't have
yeah,
an answering machine, nothing. People would call, and if you weren't there, they'd call back. Or if you're on the phone, they
yeah,
got a busy signal. It,
yeah,
it's, I think this constant bombardment and this constant busyness is just not good. You don't
and it
have
affects
to.
our pets.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I mean, it's like we get conditioned. I'm the same way. I mean, I'm certainly not immune to it, but you get to, oh, there's a text. I got to respond right away, where you got to do it. We used to send letters in the mail. It would take a week to get to somebody. You know what I
I
mean?
know,
Like,
now we expect everything to come next day.
yeah,
I'm so furious with the amount of Amazon and FedEx and UPS that come up and down my driveway.
yeah,
We have a shared driveway, and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, this is too much," because now they're taking multiple trips, and I mean, yeah, it's too much information, it's too fast, it's too stressful. We were never designed for it, and our sweet animals definitely weren't.
no, no.
And I
And
know to some people, you and I are both purists, so we could talk about this all day, and I know people listening are gonna think, "Gosh, that's so extreme. Why worry about all that stuff?" And you don't have to worry, you make it a lifestyle, you make your changes, and you just move on with life. And it is important because we have to control the things that we can control
Right.
because there's so many things that we can't.
Absolutely.
And, there are some really resilient dogs out there with diverse gene pools that are just really strong. But most of our purebred dogs, I got another golden retriever. You have a German Shepherd,
Yeah,
right?
well,
Mhm.
actually, sadly, our dog got hit by a car and killed,
Oh
so
my gosh, I'm so sorry to
yeah,
bring that up. Oh
yeah.
my
No, that's
gosh.
okay. It's been
Ugh.
actually just over a year now, so that was
Oh my goodness,
very
because he was what, 2?
he was only like a year old, so he was
Oh
very
my
young,
gosh.
and it was at our other place, and,
Ugh,
I
yeah.
was out with him on our property and training him, and I
He
never
roams and
let him
yeah.
out, and he took out we had chickens, and I was literally inside the
Mm,
chicken coop for, like, 2 probably 2 or 3 minutes just
yeah,
doing my thing, and I was training him to wait, and I was always watching him, and then I came out, and he was
yeah.
gone, and he just took off after a deer, and,
Ugh,
that was it.
I'm
So,
so sorry.
um so
It's
thank you,
awful. It's
thank you.
awful.
So
Oh my
this
god.
property where we're at now, so I don't currently have a dog, but,
Yeah.
it's fenced, so we have, like, 6
Uh,
acres, and it's
yeah.
all there's just one area we need to repair, and then it will be
Uh,
fenced, so I can get
Good, yeah,
I'll
because
get
that
a puppy at some
you're like,
point
"I'm done."
where I don't have to worry about it. Yeah,
Oh, that's
yeah,
just the worst. But, as awful as that stuff is, I'm like, I would rather my dog have been living his life and have something like that happen than watch
yeah,
watch cancer slowly take them. Like, that sounds awful, but having been through that, it's like, I'm not gonna hold my dog back from living his life. Like,
yeah,
if something horrible happens while he's being a dog, that's just so
yeah,
much better. Let's nature doing its thing instead of, oh, they had a slow, miserable death or a fast death from toxic overload from things that we were putting into them. It's
right,
just
and yeah,
awful. Gosh, I'm sorry.
he had a fabulous, natural life for the time,
Yeah.
time
Yeah.
time he was here, but,
Yeah, because I worry about that with my guy. I take him in the woods all the time and, raise him naturally. Like, we have alligators and we have snakes, and he has a lot of prey drive, and he'll chase deer too, so I worry about all those things, and I'm like, I'm not gonna keep him in a bubble
right,
because
right,
something like that might happen, you know?
and
Ugh, awful.
I think too, like, you have a young adult now. Is your dog intact too?
He's intact
Yeah.
too. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
dogs get pretty dumbed down sometimes by these vaccines. They think
Uh,
they get
yeah.
brain damage, forms of what I would equate to, like, autism. And when they're not vaccinated and they're on a healthy diet and they're intact, they have all their drives. And
Mhm.
like my dog, the one I lost, I was training him, and he was doing well, but he was still like he I think he had just turned a year, so he's still a
Yeah.
puppy, and
Yeah.
he had that kind of shepherd drive that, like, the switch flipped on, man, he'd
Mhm.
see something and
Mhm.
fire. It was kind of
Yeah.
the way they're bred. The working shepherds are kind of bred
Yeah.
for that reaction, and he was,
Uh-huh.
yeah, I mean, all his instincts, all his senses were just 1,000% on all the time.
Uh-huh.
So I think that's
Which is
part of it.
beautiful. Which is
Yeah,
beautiful.
right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
There's just consequences. So now I'm
And he
like,
was at that age. I know with my guy, he's a year and a half today, and probably not until the last 3 or 4 months where I've finally been able to control that prey drive, that chase. And he'll still we take him to a sandbar or something on the boat, if you don't catch him before he starts chasing birds, he's gone.
yeah,
He's and luckily he can't get in anything out there, but we finally reached a point where, I mean, it used to be like if there was something that I couldn't stop him. And I e-collar trained him, which
hmm
it's not my favorite thing, but it also has been a valuable tool in training him how to have impulse control. But yeah, your pup was still at that age where it's really hard to override
yeah. And they're
that
just
prey
kind of
drive. Yeah.
getting to where there's like feeling their oats a little bit, like they're
Uh-huh.
maturing. I think about a
Yeah.
dog that is like an 18 or 19-year-old human. They're just
Yeah.
really feeling like,
No
yeah, I'm going
fear.
to get out
Yeah.
and do my thing, and I'll pay attention to mom later. So,
Yeah. Oh,
so,
goodness. Yeah, where I was originally heading with that before I brought up that horrible subject is,
okay,
our purebred dogs, they don't have breeding and genetics on their side. They just don't. But that's not their story. That doesn't mean they're destined for disease. And the
right.
reason I am such a purist is because I can be, and I have no problem. I understand it, and I know that they can't tolerate as much, and I have to control those variables that are in my hands to the
Absolutely.
best of my ability without being stressed about it, without being anxious. But some of the big ones, some of the heavy hitters are your spay and neuter, your
Mm,
vaccines, your flea and tickle, like, all of that is so important to get right when you have a dog that's already genetically sensitive,
yeah,
and
because those genes, yeah, don't have to express. It's the same in
yeah,
people. Just because you're
yeah,
genetically have a genetic predisposition to something,
mhm,
like, well, golden retrievers have a high reputation for cancer, right? So why is that?
yeah,
Well, because if they're not bred well, and it's just there aren't that many breeders that have like multi-generational really health where they've been really been breeding for health. They breed for certain
or
characteristics,
looks, and yeah,
certain
mhm,
looks, certain colors, and things
yeah,
like that. But you're absolutely right. That it doesn't mean that those predispositions have to express. And there's things we can't control, like the chemtrails and stuff they're spraying, things
I
in the
know,
water,
oh my gosh.
you
What our neighbors are spraying.
right, right.
Yeah,
So it's
yeah,
so important, and I think becomes more and more so all the time that you have to control the things um, that you can control. But and I hear people sometimes say too, I just don't want to. I don't want to live in fear. Like, I don't live in fear. These things are priorities to me. Like, we don't go on big expensive vacations because we pay more for our food and more for
yeah,
because our health is our biggest priority. And that's a joy to us. To me, it's a joy to keep my body healthy, to live in a healthy home, to keep my animals healthy. Like,
yeah,
that brings me joy, and that's a priority. It's not a sacrifice. I
yeah,
love going to the we have a wonderful farmers market here, like 20 minutes away, and all summer. I mean, there's not a lot now because, people are just picking up on the gardening now this time of year, but
yeah,
it's like my favorite thing to do. I'd go there with my wad of cash. I'd always spend cash, so I'm not
yeah.
using the banking system and all these people growing organically and supporting them and visiting with them and supporting your local community and buying all this. I mean, it is just like my favorite thing to do, every
Mine
every,
too,
every
mine
week.
too. Yeah.
And
We
and and
fortunately have that here too, and I'm like a kid in a candy store every time, and we
and
spend a fortune on food, but it's so important with the
yeah.
amount of cancer in humans and dogs, like, you gotta prioritize this stuff, and you can balk at people all you want that are purists, but we need to be. If you're not, you're likely gonna find yourself or your animals with a chronic illness.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
Mhm.
Totally.
Yeah.
Supporting our local communities is going to be even more important with the overseas situation now. And I was listening to, I follow Joel Salatin. I don't know, do you know who he
Yeah.
is? Yeah.
Yeah.
Polyface Farms. So, I listen to his podcast every week, and, he was saying, people are going to need to learn to find their local farmers and buy from their local producers because the big major food system is going to really be impacted by the lack of fertilizer. And they're talking about how, we're not going to get enough fertilizer here. And I'm like, but I grow, I mean, I have a good sized garden of my own, and I grow everything regeneratively. I'm like, I don't buy petroleum based fertilizers, and neither do the people that I grow from. So it's like I could go
Yeah.
on uninterrupted going to the farmer's market as long as I can put gas in my car to get there.
Yeah,
I'm
exactly.
going to keep going to the farmer's market and might
Exactly.
not even notice the difference. Whereas the
Mhm.
grocery store shelves are going to, empty out.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I get so mad anytime I have to rely on a grocery store for something.
I know.
Like, I hate buying this nutrientless dead food and
I
spending
know.
a fortune for it. I'd much rather give it to my local people who are working so hard to feed the community real food. Yeah, I'm with you on that. It's
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
important. Even for our dogs, people who
Absolutely.
I try to, transition over to fresh food feeding and raw feeding, I'm like, "You could save so much money just being a little savvy and
It's
talking
not
to your local farmers and getting
totally.
those trimmings and
There's so
organs
much goes to
and
waste.
my gosh, so much goes to waste,
Yeah.
and they could make money off of it. Your dog is getting the best of the best food because while there's a lot of great pre-made like or commercial raw companies out there, the best food that you can give yourself or your dog is the food that you prepare and make at home and
Mm,
you source yourself. Like
yeah.
I've
Yeah.
learned that with my guy, and I try to do it as much
As
as I
long as you're
can.
doing it well and doing it
Yeah.
right, you do have to do like a variety of organs and mix up the proteins and make sure they're getting enough bone and all that stuff. But
Yes.
if if you live in an area where there's a lot of like, we're surrounded by like small cattle farms here. It's like
Uh-huh.
small farms in our
Yep.
area, maybe one to tops maybe 200 acres. Mostly they're like 100, 150 acre farms. So they're small farmers, um, small producers. So there's lots of that sort of stuff available. You just have to make it a priority. People get used to convenience, but really convenience kills. You got to get
It does.
away from that. And you know what? If you, I bet if most people, spent less time just watching TV, if you figured out how much
Scrolling on
time,
their
most
phone.
people
Yeah.
spend on the
Yeah.
TV or just scrolling through Facebook and all that, and put that time into leading a healthier lifestyle, I bet it would be pretty easy for most people to do, and they'd feel so much better and they'd be so much healthier for it. And lifestyle for them, and I'm including their dogs. If you did the
Yeah.
research and found out how to do this for your dogs too, because it all goes together. It's a
All goes
philosophy.
together. Yeah.
Like my philosophy for my health is the same for my animals. I mean, I eat different things, but the
Yeah.
philosophy of where I source my food from and everything is all the same.
Yeah, it's all the same, and I've learned so much through how I feed him where this might gross you out or you might do it. I started cutting up just yesterday. I was doing the beef organ supplements, the freeze-dried supplements,
Hmm.
and I'm thinking, "Why am I not just eating the organs?"
Yeah.
I've tried to cook them, eat them. I hate the taste, but I have friends who get the frozen liver or heart or whatever, cut it up into small cubes, and they just shoot it with just some water a couple times a week.
Was
It's
that
makes
right?
me feel better. Yeah, so I started doing that yesterday, and I'm
Just
not dead
raw?
yet. Just raw,
Oh,
yep.
wow. I've
I
never
make
done
sure
it
it's
raw. I've
frozen.
cooked the organs, but I'm with you. I kind of
Yeah.
don't like, yeah, I don't
Oh, I
like the
hate
way
the
it tastes.
taste.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hate the taste, but yeah, I had a friend who actually did it while pregnant, and it's just so much more bioavailable, way cheaper than buying those expensive supplements,
Yeah.
who knows what's in them. So yeah, I started doing that. So I've learned so much 'cause I'm like, gosh, these are so great for our dogs. They get so many of their beneficial nutrients from these organ meats. I want to incorporate more of it, and I'm spending a fortune on these freeze-dried supplements. Why don't I just try
Yeah. I
eating
should.
eating the raw ones?
Now you're motivating me to get back to because I do have a dried supplement
Yeah,
that I take. Um
yeah,
and also there's an online place. It's called US Wellness Meats, and they sell a
yeah,
variety of like freeze dried, so some specialty things, like I buy
yeah,
liverwurst from them. So it's
uh-huh,
basically like seasoned organs to taste better.
yeah, yeah.
But
I mean, that's still fantastic. I think
yeah,
that's still great.
I'm still doing
Yeah,
something, but it does get, it gets expensive, and I could be
yeah.
buying the liver and the kidney and the heart and just, you know,
Yeah, yeah, I
shoot it.
just pulled it out yesterday and, it kind of flattens in those bags, and I just cut up little squares and put them in a glass container, and now I guess just 2 or 3 times a week, I'll just shoot a couple cubes back. But, great for our skin, our hair,
Yeah,
our immune system. I mean, there's
yes.
zinc and copper and, like, there's so
Yeah.
many good
So
things,
good.
so
Yeah. And really no
yeah.
difference in taking the caps. Okay, you got me motivated.
Okay,
I'm
okay,
gonna have
yeah.
to do that.
I share that with people and they're like, "Ew, that's disgusting." But I'm like, "Ah, I mean, if it's been frozen for a while, there's no harm in that raw organ meat, I don't think. I mean, I'm
Not at all.
fine."
Not at all.
So,
It's so good for you.
yeah, so we're coming up on an hour. So I just want to how I learned about you was, I had my cancer girl, my older girl just gotten diagnosed with oral cancer, and the vet I was seeing was wonderful, and she's an open-minded vet. When I
Mhm.
shared with her what you had me doing for her,
Mhm.
she I was getting acupuncture for Anne, and she left the room for 30 minutes, and I had just told her I felt like I was cheating on her, but I was like, "Look, I've been working with a holistic vet. We're doing all of these things for Anne too alongside the acupuncture. I just wanted to let you know." And she left for 30 minutes. I didn't know how she took it. She came back with this folder full of papers that she'd printed out on the mistletoe therapy, like
Oh,
on CBD, on all the things. So she was so inspired, and she was already 1 foot out the door of that conventional practice where she was starting her own practice where she was focusing on massage and laser therapy and acupuncture. So that was really cool. You just never know. Like, I know people go into the vet and they're a little scared to say they're raw feeding or,
Mhm.
talk about the natural things that they're doing. But there are some vets who, when they hear it for the first time, it will click.
Actually
And she
open.
was one of
That's
them.
very
So,
cool, very cool.
so yeah, so while she was awesome and was fully supportive of me not wanting to do surgery or chemo or radiation with Anne, she didn't have anything for me other than that. She's like, we can tweak the acupuncture a little bit now that we know this is happening. So I was just, gosh, I was in a fog. I was so devastated that she was sick. And she was 12, which is for a golden now pretty good,
Mhm.
unfortunately. But it was still just so heartbreaking. I was in such a fog. I was researching. I was so confused. And I had already kind of shifted more holistic. I'd stopped vaccines and flea and tick preventatives, was feeding raw, but it takes a long time to undo all of that damage. It was her cancer was so far along by the time we noticed it. I mean, that tumor was ping pong ball size at the base of her tongue. It had been growing for a while. So, I started to get frustrated and I was like, you know what? I need to get a second opinion. There was an oncology center here in Charleston. And I reached out to them about making an appointment. And then that next morning, before I even made the appointment, I had been listening to Dr. Judy Morgan's
Mm,
podcast and I heard your episode.
mhm.
And I was like, this is divine intervention because it was exactly the message I needed to hear. You were so aligned with what I believed in. And I loved just your whole, how you don't mess with the cancer, support the dog. And that's when I reached out to you. So for anyone listening,
Uh,
that's how I got connected. And you were just wonderful. I mean, that vet said Anne probably had 1 to 2 months to live, and she lived nine more months, happy and healthy. But it was still so heartbreaking. We had made all those good changes. Her coat was amazing. Her skin was the best it had been her whole life. Such great mobility, but that cancer was just slowly
yeah.
growing inside her. So we ultimately had to put her down. But what so I asked this question to any vets that specialize in cancer like you. A lot of the conventional vets say that our dogs are there's not more cancer, there's just better diagnostic tools, and our dogs are living long enough now to get cancer, or that we have
Mm,
social media, so we're hearing about it more. And what would you say, just from your own observations?
no, I would
You
say,
know?
no, that's not true. So, I like
Yeah.
was saying before, I started in a very conventional practice. I was in rural Idaho,
Yeah.
and we weren't even really treating cancer back then. And it's not like we weren't finding it, and dogs,
Mhm.
these farm dogs, they'd lived good long lives. I mean, trauma was like their biggest risk because, they get run
Uh-huh.
over by a tractor or something like that, get hit on the
Exactly.
road, they're just running around.
Yeah.
So trauma was like a much bigger thing there than in the city dogs. But and we were vaccinating and everything too, back then, maybe because they were outside more and had healthier lifestyles, we didn't see it. But
Yeah.
cancer was something that older dogs died with. Um, I don't think, and like I said, these farm dogs, they'd live into their teens, some of them, if they didn't
Mhm.
have some trauma.
Yeah.
I was not seeing it. I mean, what's been most dramatic for me is I've
Yeah.
seen 1.5-year-olds diagnosed with lymphoma. I mean, I never saw that. So this whole thing, well, they're living longer. Well, that's a bunch of bunk because we're seeing it in like dogs under
Yeah.
3. Never. It was an old age
Yeah.
disease. And we were even that's why I
Mhm.
think, vaccines are way more toxic now too than they were back then.
Mm.
And we weren't
Yeah.
doing as many boosters and stuff. I mean, a lot of farm dogs and
Right.
people are just like, they didn't really take them to the vet, but
Yeah.
dogs were, I don't really want to say dispensable, but they're income producing animals where we're spending money
Mhm.
on at the vet. Whereas their dogs, they just hung out in the farm and, they were just kind of, farm dogs. So we would see dogs, tumors would show up later in life and they die with the cancer, but I don't remember treating cancer. But I
'Cause they were
completely
already, yeah.
disagree with that because I'm seeing dogs now routinely less than 5 years old, and some even less than 3 years old being diagnosed with
Yeah,
cancer. So that whole thing about they're living longer, so we're finding it
I
more is
know.
like no. And you don't
Yeah.
need most cancers, like Anne's tumor on her tongue. You need fancy
Yeah.
diagnostics to see that. And
No, we never did any like, I never aspirated it, nothing.
yeah,
So I want people listening to know that you don't have to do that, and you probably shouldn't do that
Yeah.
because that could make things worse.
That
Yeah.
would be a great, if you ever wanted to do a follow-up podcast on
Yeah.
a cancer we've kind of talked a lot about,
Yeah.
philosophies and things, but,
Yeah.
um, one thing that I talk to people about that I know I don't know if I know any other vets that are like, really don't do the surgery, don't do an aspirate. If it hasn't been done, just don't mess with it. And how to approach, like just to have how to help people approach that moment where, oh my gosh, my dog has cancer. Now what? What do I do?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so we could certainly there's a lot we can talk about specifically about cancer, both from your experience, and maybe we could
For
help
sure.
educate
Yeah.
people. Because I think the more educated people are, it can help them make better decisions and stay out of fear.
Mhm.
Because once we're in fear, and we're all like this, you've experienced it, I've experienced it. You don't think clearly. You're afraid. Your baby's sick, and people are so vulnerable to just going down the conventional route. We got to take it out right away and start your dog on chemo next week, And a lot of people are just afraid, so they do that. So to help give people like maybe some different perspectives on
Yeah.
yeah, we talked today a lot about prevention. It'd be great, if it just never shows up. But say it does, then what? So we could give people, I think, a lot of pointers if you wanted to. I'd love to come back. I really
Yeah.
enjoyed visiting with
I
you,
know. I know.
and we could maybe, just do a little more specific deep dive into some of the cancer
Yeah.
topics too.
Yeah, I would love that because I did both paths with my dogs. We did fully holistic, didn't mess with it, and I knew better, but I still when my hemangiosarcoma guy, they found the tumor, we were on the road, I panicked. I was so scared. I let them talk me right into doing something that I fully regret now, and yeah, I think that's such a huge thing because even people I work with one on one, they'll have their head in the game. They understand what I'm telling them. They'll go to the vet and then they'll make a decision out of fear. And I'm like, ah, now we got to clean up this mess,
Right.
So,
Totally.
oh, I felt so bad when I had to tell you what I did because I knew the whole time went through with that surgery. I was just thinking in the back of my mind, I just need to talk to Dr. Jasek. I need to talk to her because my guy was stable. I think that's something very important is don't rush into decisions if there's an emergency, a life or death situation, obviously, but
If
if
they're
your dog is
bleeding to death,
really
like if the
stable,
bleeding, like if the
yeah,
tumor is bleeding and they're bleeding to death, then you might
you gotta yank
have
the
to.
spleen, you gotta,
Might
yeah, do
have to.
something, but my dog was stable, he was stable overnight, he walked into the clinic, he was happier the next morning, I should have drug him out of there and said, "Okay, I'm gonna talk to my holistic vet and I'll get back to you guys." We were in a camper, I could have stayed in the parking lot, but yeah, I did 2 paths, fully holistic with Anne, she made it 9 more months, and she had a less aggressive cancer, it was
Mhm.
still pretty aggressive, and with Skip, we found out about it, we did the surgery. 3 weeks later, he had fluid around his heart that had already spread to his heart, and 3 weeks later, we lost him. I think it was in his lungs, so it was a
So
fast
fast.
track because we messed with it. I fully believe that. Um, so, yeah, we need to dig into what
We'll
that
do.
can look like
We'll do
for
it. I am
sure.
gonna have to jump off here. I've
Okay,
gotta hop on
okay,
a
well,
call,
thank
but
you so, so much,
so nice to chat with you. And yeah,
you
let's
too,
do it
you
again
too. I'll
sometimes.
stay on and give a spiel about how people can find you and all of that. Thank you so much for
Okay.
your time. It
Oh,
was
you're
so
so
great to catch
welcome.
up, and we'll talk again.
Okay, sounds good,
Bye,
Bree. Take
thank you.
care. Okay, bye.
Bye. All right. So Dr. Jasek had to get back to doing what she does, and she's amazing, guys. Oh, it feels so good to talk to her. And it's a little emotional because she's who helped me with my cancer guys. And she was a huge part of why I do what I do. And now I'm like choked up thinking back to what happened with my guys, and it's why I'm here. It's why I do what I do, and I love now that I've got this podcast going because Dr. Jasek isn't on social a whole lot. You're not going to hear from her a whole lot, and I admire that about her. I admire that about people who don't feel like they have to be on social media. I mean, that's a healthy, grounded, regulated person. That's not on their phone all the time. So I wanted to bring her perspective on things to you guys, and we will do a cancer episode. Um, Clearly, it's really hard for me to talk about. Even thinking about trying to talk about it, I get choked up. I do eventually want to do an episode where I walk through the full story, and maybe it should be on my own. I don't want to make a guest uncomfortable because I will get emotional. but she has a lot of valuable insight on cancer. And in the meantime, she has talked about that on Dr. Judy Morgan's podcast, and I've referred it so many times. I think I know it's episode 4 or 5. So when you go to Dr. Judy Morgan's podcast, scroll all the way down to the beginning, and I think you go up 4 or 5, and it talks about, her what she's learned about cancer and like not messing with it, not immediately jumping to surgery and chemo and radiation, how oftentimes not messing with it, not even doing a 5-needle aspirate is the best route to go. We did that with Anne, my cancer girl, Anne. Her breath was horrible and just getting worse over a few months' time. And finally, we had switched to raw and it was still new to me. So I'm like, God, does she have food stuck in her mouth? Like, what is going on in this dog's mouth? And I finally noticed the mass way at the back of her tongue, almost in her throat. So it was really hard to see. The vet that I'd been taking her to for her joints and inflammation for acupuncture, she's specialized in traditional Chinese veterinary medicine. So she would check Anne's tongue color all the time because that was a good indicator of health. And even she didn't notice it. So we caught it very far along, but it was very clear that it was cancer just by the way it behaved, the coloring, the smell. So you don't have to diagnose because honestly, um, you're really not going to change a whole lot. It's about supporting the animal naturally. And whether it's cancer or not, like it's things we should still be doing regardless. So there are some additional things you would layer in. But anyway, we'll talk about that in another episode. Thank you guys for listening to that. And Dr. Jasek, and I didn't get to talk about this with her, but um, so many people online when I talk about working with a holistic vet are just like, I don't have a vet in my area. I don't have a holistic vet. How do I find one? And remember, you can meet with vets like Dr. Judy Jasek virtually. That is how I worked with her. And oftentimes it is helpful to have a vet that you can trust to do imaging, to do ultrasounds or x-rays or blood work. And then you have that data that you can share with a vet like Dr. Judy Jasek. You can email and then you work with that vet. That she'll analyze that and come up with a plan for you. You do not have to have one to meet with physically. Like, is that wonderful? Is that great? Yeah. But just know if you have one locally, they're usually going to be a good drive. For a while, that acupuncture vet I was seeing for Anne, she wasn't even holistic. I had to drive an hour and a half to her once or twice a month. And I found another integrative vet to do acupuncture and different ozone treatments. And they were 2 hours away. So just be prepared for that. It's worth it. And when you're feeding dogs well and you have your own first aid kit and you're trained in acute homeopathy to some degree, but if you're feeding well and doing all the right things, you shouldn't really need to have a vet locally to use all the time. You should be able to just do check-ins and get guidance from a holistic vet or homeopathic vet online. And Dr. Judy Jasek obviously is one of my favorites. I worked with her, and if you're a big fan of her now after listening, you can go to animalhealingarts.com. You can work with her virtually. She has her setup is kind of you talk to her nutritionist on her staff first and get the diet stuff situated because Dr. Jasek wants to spend time getting to the root of what's going on specifically. So even before that, she'll have you watch. She's put together videos that she's made and she'll talk you through vaccines, through flea and tick prevention. And then she also has a video on cancer and her approach to cancer that she'll have you watch before you even meet with her nutritionist. And then her nutritionist will then walk you through diet. So all of that basic stuff is covered, and it kind of, if it's not for you, that's your point to jump ship, and you go into the appointment with her already knowing how important all of that stuff is, so she can focus on really helping your animal with the specific issue that's going on. So I love her. She is amazing. May there be more vets like her. So again, animalhealingarts.com. And she has her Substack, and I will link it in the show notes. I have written down Judy Jasek DVM, but I'm going to find it and make sure I link it because I'm going to be just absorbing everything she's already got out there. And I encourage everyone else to do the same. She is wonderful. She is honest and transparent, and she's been doing this a long time. She started out conventionally, like all of our vets do, and then saw the light and learned how she could better help animals. And now she practices 100% holistically, and she's just great. So I will link her website. I will link her Substack. I think Animal Healing Arts does have an Instagram. They're not very active on it, but yeah, she's amazing, guys, and I'm so glad that we had her. I will have her back to talk more about cancer specifically. I know we talked to Dr. Kendra Pope, who's integrative. But as you may have noticed, Dr. Pope, she's younger and hasn't been at this as long, and she's brilliant. And she's slowly progressed to where now she doesn't do chemo. She works alongside oncologists, but I think eventually she'll get to that same point where she probably won't want to work with people that are doing chemo, kind of like Dr. Jasek. So, wonderful people. I love connecting you guys with these resources. I'm not a vet. I didn't go to vet school, but I've learned from these vets. I respect these vets. I take in every bit of knowledge they're willing to share publicly or privately. And while I know a lot on my own, it is so important to me to connect you with these people who truly are experts and have so much experience. So, thanks for listening and love your dogs.